And we're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 176 of Fans of Power. I'm Joe Amato, and I'm here with my partners in crime, Tyler T-Rex Baker and Nasty Nate, Nathan Kennedy. That's a first. I finally said partners in crime, so I acknowledge you, Nathan. You feel good about that?
No, not really, but go ahead, continue.
Okay. He's like, nope, no. But we have a special guest today, somebody that's going to be, of course, bringing you once again PowerCon, and that will be August 17th and 18th, or it's August 17th and 18th, I believe, and it's Anaheim, California. It's Val Staples. So, Val, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you for letting me come on. I appreciate it.
No, definitely. We're going to be grilling you with a lot of stuff. Of course, things about PowerCon where you can let fans know when they're going to have. I'm sure they've had a lot of questions of stuff that you'd like to cover. So, possibly then at least that stuff will be answered because I know they have had many questions about things going on with PowerCon. But before we do that, quickly, let's acknowledge people in the chat room that we have. We have Zentron, Febmon. I have my mask going into my eyeball. I apologize for that. We have Zen Brown, Max Works, Anthony Albanese, and I think that's everybody so far, but there's many more people watching, so thank you for joining us. But, well, Tyler, if you want to start off with something first or say something to Val before we start grilling them and getting into stuff, go ahead. Why don't you start off with something, T-Rex?
I want to thank Val for joining us again because we had a blast with him the last time he was on, so hopefully he will want to come back and just have another a random He-Man discussion after this because this is pretty much all business, keeping it professional here and promoting stuff here. But maybe we can squeeze in some fun topics as well. But what is it that you'd like to emphasize first in regards to the upcoming PowerCon, Val? Like, do you want to discuss the exclusives? Do you want to discuss where they can get the tickets or the info about it so far, like guests and things? Or like, what's the first thing you would have liked to throw out to people to kind of draw their attention?
All business from the beginning, I see, sir. Good man. I appreciate that. That's, I guess the big points to cover is that, like you said, like Joe said, the show is August 17th and 18th. We do have a pre-order window going right now for attendees. Those are people obviously going to the show. That lasts through the evening hours of April 7th. So next Sunday, right? And that is for because I can't say for apparently. Getting any exclusive tickets for anybody that's going to the show. Now, the thing about that window, and apologize for me clearing my throat like that. I've got a little bit of frog in my throat, so I may do that repeatedly. I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
We have a little program in place which is called Attendees for Non-Attendees. And this year, we're not offering direct non-attendee sales for people who can't come to the show. So what we have done is coordinate with a number of people who are going to the show who are willing to pick up the exclusives for a very nominal markup. And the markup, in my analysis, is pretty comparable to what we would have charged for the handling fee and the packaging and hiring people to do that. So if you're looking to save as much money as possible and you don't have to buy a ticket to the show or not a map, which we call it the merchandise access pass, you can go check out this and you can buy the exclusives through other attendees while they have slots available. And I think it's like $5 more per item. And then I think they like whatever the shipping is or something like that. So we have a link to it in the ticket section of the PowerCon website, which is www.thepowercon.com. That'll take you right to the site and check that out because that'll help you save a little bit of money. Otherwise, there's a non-attendee window afterwards from April 8th. I believe it was either May 5th. I didn't look this up before I came on here, but you have about a month to order from Big Bad Toy Store in the United States or Space over in Germany. There's the only two people we're partnering with for non-attendee sales. Now, they have a markup on the price. It's a pretty substantial markup in regards to how fans perceive it, but that's because they have to make money as well to pay for their services, what they're doing, offering it because they're running a business. So if their price is too much for somebody who's a non-attendee, I strongly encourage them to check out the attendee to non-attendee option before it ends on April 7th. And I'd say that's the big thing about like just letting people know about things, making them aware. I think everybody who's an attendee providing for a non-attendee is offering the Horde Zombie He-Man single release, the 3-pack of Slamurai with 2 Snake Troopers, and the 12-inch Starburst She-Ra. But I think only one of them is offering the Earl Norem Master Universe wrapping paper for the holidays. I think there's only one guy that's doing that. So, and I don't think anybody's offering the slime cans for Wave
Yeah, I
4.
was gonna ask.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they are. I think maybe if you ask, like, I think his name is it's I don't know his username. I know the guy. His name is John. His username is like Luigi 3311 or something like that. He might, if you ask him, say, hey, can you also pick me up the slime can? He probably would do it. So he would be a guy I would definitely say to ask, as I altered the camera there like an idiot. Sorry about that.
You're fine.
Like I would talk to him, but that's I think that would be it in regards to. I think the only other thing about PowerCon that I'd like to talk about, if it's okay with you guys, is about guest announcements and what we cover at the show, and then also why the exclusive cost what they do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to actually ask you, because there have been many people who have been wondering why the prices seem like they've went up a little bit this year, and I know that you definitely cover that. So what is the reasoning behind the prices slightly going up?
Well, the big reasons, to be completely direct, is that it's an unlimited item, and they're produced in a smaller quantity. Because of the window that we had going on, I was not able to do a made-for-order pre-order this year. We had to go in there and tell the factory, okay, we're going to commit to this quantity. That's it. And that's the price that was set. And because we had to commit to a quantity, I have to be conservative, because I don't know if we can hit a higher amount. And so I have to go a little bit lower. And when you produce fewer units, that means it's a little more expensive. That means the price goes up a little bit. And then the price in general, even with that production expense, is a little bit higher because there's money on top of it to pay for PowerCon. That's the whole reason these things exist. They're more expensive because the money that's extra pays for PowerCon. I mean, as much as I've done over the years to try to help people out, I'm not running a charity. You know, I'm running a convention and I got to pay for it. And that's what these do. But I mean, these exclusives like Horde Zombie He-Man and the 3-pack, they would not be happening if we were not doing them at PowerCon. So that's something to consider. I know that doesn't make the price any better, like easier to stomach, but that's the reason like why we're even getting them, because I was willing to take them on and do them for the show. And that's why they're more expensive. So you have the cost of production, plus what we're going to pay for PowerCon, plus freight, plus taxes, plus what I have to pay to the ticket vendor for their fee. So that's what makes the price higher than what you would normally pay from like Super 7, or even back with, well, I think Asthmatic Collector prices are out the window these days, but you know, that's why they're higher like that.
Okay, and I was going to say to, I guess, you know, like ease the minds of some people, because this may have been covered already on the org. I'm not quite sure. But in a lot of the Facebook groups, I've seen people asking, are these exclusives for, you know, like you said, Horde Zombie, He-Man, and the 3-packs? Is that going to be Super 7 or Mattel? Because some people were under the impression for some reason it was Mattel that was doing them. I was like, I don't know why they would think that. But I mean, are they Super 7? Just want to make sure, because people did want to know that.
This is an interesting situation for me, which is I don't know how Super 7 and Mattel are working this. It's something where the only thing that I've been told I can say is that these are from the Mattel factory. So
Okay.
these are using the molds and they're doing it, but I don't know the logistics of all that stuff. And they told me, said, look, you know, it's like, it's up to Super 7 to talk about it however they want. It's up to Mattel to talk about however they want, and you need to keep your mouth shut. I'm like, okay. Yeah,
so, yeah,
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So, you know, they have something worked out. I don't know what they're doing, and all I know is that, like I said, that's why we're getting these with stuff that Super 7 hasn't done yet, like the Ninjor parts and the Horde Trooper parts, is because they're coming from the Mattel factory, like the 12-inch She-Ra and the 3-pack and the Horde Zombie He-Man. All those are coming from like Mattel's factory molds and being done at Mattel's factory, I think. Okay. So
I think that was, yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think that is what was generating. Yeah, I think that was generating a lot of the questions. I mean, the reason people were asking was because, you know, they didn't see if it said Super 7 or Mattel. They weren't seeing any packaging. And when they seen that 12-inch Starburst She-Ra, and they knew that definitely was Mattel, it just started stirring up the conversations in a lot of the groups. So, and I can understand, like you said, there's only so much, you know, you could say, and you said what you could with at least it making sense for people. And I guess we'll find out when it gets closer to PowerCon, obviously.
Yeah, it's definitely something where I wish I could be more forthright about it, but I'm at the mercy of people who are willing to let me do these, and I have to defer to how they want to handle it. I understand why some fans are asking because it's going to impact how they feel about it, because some fans feel a particular way about if they came from Mattel's factory, and some fans feel about it a particular way if it came from Super 7's factory or the ones that they're using. And I get that, and I wish I could say, because I want to be forthright on that, but that's at least I can say that I know they're coming from Mattel's factory molds. I'm pretty sure they're coming from Mattel's factory, but I'm not sure because I don't know how that works, because I don't think they can get the molds over to Super 7's factory. Maybe they can, because I don't know how Strider worked either. Like I don't know what that did. I don't know if they made that at Mattel's factory or they brought the molds over to Super 7's factory. I don't know.
Okay. All
So
right.
it's
All
not
of a
what was
sudden,
handling
I can just
Mattel
picture
getting-
someone just busting through the window, and it's like, you said too much. Punch him in the face.
A bunch of federal agents with earpieces come in and sunglasses. They grab Val and just take him out. Of the room.
Joe immediately leaves because he's like, "Oh no, they'll trace it back to me somehow."
And leaves us holding the bag. And
I am willing to say, and I don't think this will get me in trouble, that like it's a different climate at Mattel right now, because everyone, like, things have changed. Like the new She-Ra show, and I'm not going to talk about the new She-Ra show. Don't worry, guys. But it's no matter what anybody feels here, it's actually doing really, really well. Like it's got a lot. I mean, heck, all you have to do is look at the cosplay shots from WonderCon and see the massive amount of cosplay representation for new She-Ra. I mean, it's popular. It's doing really well. So the climate has changed there with that. I know they really have high hopes for the movie. What's going on, I don't know. But, we've got the Nee brothers there. We know Sony's still on board. We just got a rumor of a actor being He-Man. I mean, keep in mind, it's still just a rumor.
we addressed that last week at the beginning of the show. Check it out.
Oh, I heard.
Yeah, because that one was jumping back. It was jumping back and forth. I mean, first they said he was He-Man, but they said, nope, it's rumored for Prince Adam. They haven't said He-Man yet. And then websites have been popping up today, everybody saying he's He-Man, and they listed every person that was cast for it, and they were showing information from 3 years ago. It's like, oh, dear God, just boom, shoot me.
Well,
don't get me tickled again, man. I laughed way too hard last week.
To comment on that really quick, we talked about it on Roast Google Dinner as well. When Chris Hemsworth was announced as being Thor, there was a lot of grief thrown his way about being that character. And then once he, went into training and worked out and became the character, now I don't know if anybody can imagine anybody but him being Thor. So it's one of those things where it's like you see the initial pictures of a picture of a person they picked. You only have to go by what you see at that time and their previous resume. People in casting see and know things that we don't know. They've worked out things that we don't know. So if he is actually going to be He-Man, they did it for a reason. There's something we don't know because he's not a buff guy right now. He's in shape. He's a fit guy, but he's not buff and stuff. So they know something about his potential to be He-Man, and that's all I can fathom on it. But again, it's still just a rumor. It doesn't really matter, but things are really ramping up for He-Man at Mattel right now. What that means, I don't know. I do speculate that we're going to hear some interesting stuff by San Diego Comic-Con, but that's just my guess based on like the rumor mill, like behind the scenes. But whether or not it'll happen, I don't know. But I just know there's like really, really, really hyped up positive spirits at Mattel right now about He-Man, which is like awesome because it's great to see that and hear it. And so, I'm kind of caught in the thick of that. I'm just kind of flowing with the current and whatever I'm told to do, really. So.
Now, is this essentially like when you... Now, Joe, you've had your time here. Let me
that's what I'm saying. You go ahead. Go ahead.
I would just to touch on what Val said is that the climate has changed at Mattel. Are we talking like we've got people in there who have an appreciation for the line in general, or they see that this has potential based on the She-Ra cartoon and various other things? Like what is it about the climate that's changed that makes you feel a little bit more gung-ho that He-Man's going to get this property's going to be given some respect and some proper treatment, they're not I guess not so much scared of like 2000X all over again kind of thing.
I don't think that I'm saying anything out of line when I reveal that the people in officer positions now, one person in particular, are very passionate about He-Man. From the top down, there's a big passionate, I guess, enthusiasm for He-Man right now. And I know it's something that they really believe strongly in. And I think it's one of those things where, I mean, Mattel's a big company and they have a lot of moving parts, and a lot of fans, like, we all kind of like see the simplicity of like what can be done, right? We're like, we'll do this, do this, do this, and get it done. When you get into a giant company, you have a lot of people with a lot of say and a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and then you have your investors on top of that. And so there's a lot going on, a lot you have to answer to, and they just can't do things with the brevity we would like to see as fans. And there's also business deals this side that we don't know about, money things that we don't know about, how their brands, that's a great word, their brands play out as a whole. We're not privy to all that, and all that has to coexist and get along and, be programmed out and planned out. So it's something where I think for a time there was people that back in the day maybe not has much faith in He-Man as we do, but you also have to consider that a lot of those people were coming off the back of 2000X. And for us, like, I don't know how everybody here feels, but a lot of people in our kind of age demographic really love 2000X. The reality of it is the toy line bombed, the cartoon bombed, and the licensing program bombed. So it's something where it did not live up to expectations. Brick and mortar stores did not have a lot of faith in He-Man for quite a while. And when you come off of that in your existing management, you're going to be gun shy, right? I mean, you're already a company that's dropped millions and millions and millions of dollars into a franchise. It didn't succeed. Are you going to be willing to jump right back into that? And I mean, we think, yeah, just do something different, like do it new, go at it, because we know the value in it, but they think about it from a lot of other different angles, especially a financial one. But enough time has passed, enough attitude has changed in the public about He-Man and She-Ra. The new She-Ra cartoon has shown that, I mean, even though it doesn't necessarily target towards our demographic, it's shown that there is a lot of life in that franchise to reach a newer demographic. So it's shown that He-Man has that same potential as well. So the people that are there now see that. They're fresher faces. Mattel had a big changeover, I think it was last year or the year before last, where they let go a lot of people. And a lot of people saw that and they speculated the worst. They thought, oh man, Mattel must be in bad shape. They fired all these people. That's not what happened. Mattel kind of reset the gears. They reset the switch. They went back, got the, trim the fat, so to speak, got things streamlined, and have a lot of hardcore people on base that are ready to rock and roll on things. And you're seeing kind of improvements across their brands and numerous brands. And I think He-Man is one of the ones they have a lot of faith in.
Now, to piggyback on that a little bit more, if Mattel sees that the new She-Ra series is a success with the younger generation and they have faith in He-Man, is their priority to really grab younger viewers, and the adult fans are just kind of if we get them, we get them. If not, it's not that big a deal because, and I know you probably don't know, but I'm saying is that you kind of getting a vibe that that's their main focus is to maintain the young generation?
Well, okay, speaking logically for a moment, we have to look at what Mattel is. It's a toy company. Mm-hmm. Their job is to sell toys. They're going to reach more sales with children of a toy than they are with adults. Adult collectors are a finite audience, and we are a shrinking audience. I hate to say that, but it's how it is. The older we get, the fewer of us there are to buy, and that you're seeing this big shift to high-end collectibles. And I think that's part of the reason, because there's this hardcore base willing to spend an exponential amount of money for bigger end items. The big consumer base, the higher end, higher quantity items are something that are mass consumable with all age demographics. And so they're always going to want to reach a younger demographic. That said, everybody I've spoken with at Mattel, from global directors all the way down to brand managers or even below that, are passionate about He-Man. They know He-Man, and they don't want to forget the adult collector. That doesn't necessarily mean that entertainment or toys are going to be geared towards us, but I know some people really don't like the She-Ra cartoon from kind of a gut reaction to something that's to their opinion is drastically changed. But if you take a moment and you look at it and you take the blinders off and ignore whatever political or social or art style, whatever changes you don't like, it's still fundamentally the same story. The characters are there. The kind of relationships, for the most part, are still there intact. They've changed a little bit. It's still She-Ra. It's just different slightly. Like, they've changed some things around. Some things a little more drastic than others, but some of the aesthetics a little different. But it's still She-Ra, and they did that because they were working towards a different audience, and they still have plenty of nods in place to our demographic. Now, whether or not they connect with everybody, as you can see, that's hit or miss, right? But I think that's something to expect, in my opinion, with He-Man, to where they're going to need to do something where they target a younger audience. But I don't think they're going to forget us. And the thing about it too is She-Ra, and it's one thing I've always I wish our fan base wasn't like this, which is that whole knee-jerk, hateful reaction to something where you just you just throw it out the window right away. Think longer term, which is like, okay, if you don't like the new She-Ra, that's fine. But if you're willing to support it, you might get the She-Ra things you do want as a collector, as an adult consumer. So if the new She-Ra does really well across all demographics, that means things for the niche market, a niche market like us, that we want. And so I really wish fans would pull more together in that regard. Think about bigger picture scenarios, which is like, put aside your initial vitriolic reaction about it and think about, okay, this may not be for me, but if I support this, I might get what I want. Just like Hasbro has done with Transformers, for example. Think about like the movies. Michael Bay's movies aren't for everybody by any stretch of the imagination, but think of all the other products that hardcore fans have been able to enjoy with comics and licensing and even toys that they would not get today if it had not been for those movies.
But I don't see, I don't support those movies and never have. But I will grab the Generation 1 stuff if I see it on the shelf. But I say that's what worries me, is that I've often thought that if you support something you clearly are not interested in, they're going to, well, this worked, let's do it with this. And if that worked, we'll do it again with this. That's what I worried, that I feel like they're not willing to look at it as, okay, there's clearly interest. What's going to prevent them from copying? So the thing with me, with She-Ra, and I'm going to go into a long rabbit hole about this, is just it's not capturing the essence of a different world, like having your characters talk like they go to the local high school and that kind of thing. Like, that's not something I would want to see. That kills it for me directly. I didn't like the new the 2012 Turtles cartoon, but I fell in love with it because I'm like, okay, get past the animation. The stories are really great. I like the voice acting for the most part. I'm like, okay, I was completely wrong about that. But I just would worry that if fans just decide, okay, we'll kind of drop it and support this, what would prevent Mattel or DreamWorks to kind of continue on with this same kind of personification of He-Man's talking like a middle school kid that goes, to...
That's very fair. And so let me amend what I said. That's a very good point. So I don't think anybody should give blind admiration. A lot of the comments that I support are when people say, this isn't for me, but I'm glad the people that like it get it. I think that's a good place to be, where you're acknowledging it's not your thing. So they have kind of a checkbox of like, okay, this isn't, like, there's obviously people against it, but they're not trying to tear it down. And I think that's been a big thing where people, like, I mean, if you go online and you're very hateful, and some people have been very, very, very hateful.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to change things for you. Like, what do you think is going to happen if you go spit venom? They're going to go, oh, crap, well, these guys hate it. Let's go back and rework it. That's not happening, So the best thing you can do is be constructive, not be deconstructive. It's okay to have criticism, by all means. And if you don't like something, just point out why you don't like it. But don't say racist, homophobic, sexist things, which I've seen. I've had to delete a number of comments off the social media, not a ton. I've probably had to delete maybe 50 to 100 over the course of it out of thousands of people. But these people make us look bad as a fan base. I understand the reaction, but keep it real. Don't keep it hateful. It's not good. Like you want somebody to talk about you like that. If you care about something, you wouldn't want somebody to talk about something you love like that. So why do that about something, to the contrary? It doesn't make any sense. It just keep it real. Criticism is okay, but be respectful. Be constructive with it. If you have a point about something you don't like, explain why. And that's okay, but don't just crap on something for no reason other than this put together a string of curse words. It just looks ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because when Nathan and I discussed it, there was none of our critiques were anything that you just mentioned. There was just a visual style, some of the way that they spoke. And again, as Tyler said, which Nathan and I were talking about, they spoke as if they were kind of from Earth, which kind of took you out of the field, because that was the special and unique thing about He-Man back in the day and She-Ra is, unlike Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Ninja Turtles, while yes, it's fantasy and there's things that don't exist in that, it's still on Earth, so you can understand the relatable way they speak. But when you tune into He-Man and She-Ra, it was like your escape from reality, from this Earth, into a fantasy world where things were different. They spoke in a different manner and tone, and you didn't feel like kids are getting grounded. They're saying, oh, like, and what, and oh my God, they weren't doing this kind of certain vernacular.
Sure.
That was something that just kind of turned me off. Sure, I understand, like you said, that it's a different demographic. I understand that, but that is something which, when Tyler was speaking as well, it would scare you to think, God, what if they thought, hey, let's do that to if they made a He-Man cartoon. Let's have him talk like that. It's like, He-Man was my one thing. He-Man and She-Ra, those were my go-tos to not feel Earth-like. And the thought of it they did to He-Man, it just would drive me nuts. And I pray if they do the movie, I hope they do it to just some kind of justice. Make it really fantasy-like, kind of lay off again the way they speak certain ways. But if they can keep it into a good fantasy element, and like you said, not only target the adults but a new generation, it'd be great. It's like when you do go to the toy stores, unfortunately, I mean, half of them are gone nowadays.
Yeah,
but
unfortunately,
when you go on it is. It's sad, but it's like, man, I go to toy aisles of particular stores, and it seems like there's more adults collecting all of these things than anybody. It's like, I know that, of course, you want to get kids. Of course you do. Because I've always said, I want kids to use their imaginations like we used to back in the day. But I know, unfortunately, with a lot of technology and things where they're having games and portable devices to have adventures and things right before them quickly, maybe they're not playing with toys as much. But I understand it'd be great to bring those kids in. Hopefully they use their imaginations and grow with it. But like you said, target the adults too. Get like both of them excited. But yeah, you definitely, I just wouldn't want the feel of just one kiddie thing leading to another, another and another. I'd hope they'd say, you know what, there's still those adult fans that are rabid for this, because hell, we know people in their 50s, 60s that still collect this stuff and obsess on it. So you'd hope you'd still keep them. I just don't know what their exact plan is, but I would hope that they do always keep us in mind, because through websites, as you know, with He-Man.org and all these Facebook groups, we've been keeping this stuff alive when there's been no ways of advertising, beyond us and collecting things through Matty Collector and Super 7,
No, completely valid feedback. And that's the kind of feedback that I think I wish more people posted. It's like well thought out. You talk about it and you put it out there. It's not the vitriol like I was talking about. If more people voice their criticisms like that, I wouldn't see where there would be any problem, because that's it's useful feedback. That's good stuff to hear people talk about that sort of thing. Like, did my camera go away?
No,
you're still there.
I was like, I'm just, it's very weird. I'm just like staring at Nathan for some reason.
Not
that he isn't handsome and I don't like looking at him.
Well, I appreciate that, I guess. Sure.
But it's just, it's Scott Knightlick. I know that some people didn't care for how Scott communicated necessarily, but he was a very important person and really pushing for the brand. And he talked about it at the PowerCon panel, which we posted on YouTube, which is those negative type remarks can hurt. And it's something where a lot of people who invest money, they think, well, everybody hates this stuff, whatever. Now, it's still different with TV because they have, Netflix has obviously data to go on, right? They know how many people watched it and whatnot. So the feedback online doesn't necessarily matter as much. But like when you're putting out a niche product, it's a little bit different. But yeah, totally valid stuff. And I agree with you. I mean, a lot of the fans have kept these franchises alive for a long time. They should not be forgotten. A lot of the stuff that made it what it was should not be forgotten. I think people should expect changes. Things are going to be different. How it's going to be different, I guess, is up to the designers to do it. But as long as they capture the essence, we talked about it before, like on RG, on Riskable Dinner, which is with a He-Man movie. Our mentality, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but our mentality is, as long as they capture the basics of what makes He-Man, we're going to go into it with an open mind, because we do not expect to see our toy line from 35 years ago on the big screen. We expect there to be He-Man. We expect there to be Skeletor. We expect there to be Castle Grayskull. We expect there to be a transformation, and everything else is probably up for play. So, and that's the mentality that we're kind of taking for it, because I hope it isn't going to be that loose. I really hope not so much, but I think us hardcore fans are going to have way bigger expectations for loyalty to storylines than the average person in the street is going to care about. A lot of people, they don't have.
I was going to say,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I wasn't cutting you off. I just meant I was going to expand upon what you're saying. See, that's the thing. Now, what would you expect out of the movie? Meaning, I've seen in groups a lot of varying factors when it comes to even the cast of, like, the role of He-Man, himself. Some people have said, okay, if it isn't that guy who, has been rumored to play Prince Adam, and they're thinking about who'd be He-Man, they said, what would you rather have? Would you rather have somebody that's really buff and in shape that looks like He-Man, which in my mind, I'd hope somebody is buff and yes, can act. I mean, obviously you want to believe this character, wants to be believable. But then some people said, I don't even care if he's buff. I just want a good actor. And for me, I'll be honest, I don't want just somebody that's a good actor and would have zero shape, because He-Man to me is the epitome of He-Man. We've always known him for being big and muscular. Am I saying be super gigantic and buff, like just swelling like crazy? We know that probably won't happen, but somebody that definitely has a nice body shape and can act, can act also. But I've really heard some people said they wouldn't even care. They wouldn't want him buff. They just want an actor. Now, for me, I don't agree. I don't know about you, but I can't just accept a good actor, but not look like He-Man at all. That would be bizarre to me.
For me, we have to think about his tagline. He is the most powerful man in the universe. So I think with that said, we do have an expectation, but you have to think about, even though I know there's some He-Man fans that completely disregard She-Ra, think about the counterpoint to that. She-Ra is the most powerful woman in the universe. She wasn't huge and buff, and you didn't question her being extremely strong and being able to do things she could do. And the reason both of them could do the things they could do it was because they channeled the power of Grayskull, which is whatever that power may be. Physical prowess didn't necessarily mean that you have to have physical intimidation to achieve that. That said, it's still He-Man. It was still the big buff figure. It's still how he's always been depicted. I think if he's not at least physically impressive to some degree, he probably would not be the He-Man that we've known for 35 years. I don't think he needs to be massive, but I do think he needs to be fit. I think he needs to be a little bit bigger than everybody else that's on the screen. I mean, the other thing that I kind of came back to is, if we think about the Master Universe line as a whole, every figure was buffing the stuff, right? They're all Buff Bagwell. They're all Scott Steiner with the.
Oh God, Buff Bagwell.
I mean, they're all huge, right? So
yeah,
we can't have a bunch of just huge people walking around on the big screen. It's not going to work. So it would be really weird to have one guy that's massive and everybody that looks normal. So they have to be proportionate. They can't be. Now, Tyler, you're probably thinking Predator, wherever, for most of the cast are pretty fit and whatever. I got you there. But it's a different beast. I think they're gonna.
Why can't you take at least that factor? Because that's what I feel like. If the people at Sony and the brothers that are signing those directors look at these guys and just feel like, Why can't we do that? Why can't we? It like this world showcases muscle and beauty, you know, scary and handsome and a wide variety of creatures and powerful people, men and women. Like, why not have that? What? Because I initially were when I saw like the guy, I don't know what his name was, but fit people on screen, they're about no bigger than Matt Damon. Like Matt Damon may be in shape for a Bourne film, but he's not a big guy. Like it's why I feel like He-Man characters, like I don't want them to be like the ridiculously overblown Photoshop pictures that you see, but they should look something similar to, the action heroes of the 80s. Like, I mean, not talk about bodybuilding Mr. Olympic competition, but they should look like there should be no question. And when you look at a gentleman playing Clamp Champ or Fisto or even Man at Arms, I feel like, the few human villains like Triclops, not to say that all the villains have got to be overbearing, because I feel like you can kind of get away with it because the villains are a little bit more of a variety from creatures and humans and stuff. But that's what worries me, is that they're not really going to emphasize that the shape is just as important as good acting. That's part of the product. Like He-Man, that's kind of like half of why we fell in love with the characters, because they're such a presence, such a visual look and to not have that, that's like taking away, the lightsaber from Star Wars. That's part of the appeal of that. And I would hope that they realize that it's important to get a good actor, but you can't settle for someone who's just in shape and goes to the gym on occasion kind of thing.
I completely understand your point of view on that, and to a degree, I agree with you on that. I think case in point would be the Marvel movies. Now, as a lot of people here know, but some people may not know, I've worked in comics for 19 years now. I've worked for Marvel Comics most of the time, DC part of the time, but mostly Marvel. And if you look at Marvel comic characters, for the most part, they're physical specimens. Not all of them, but a great many of them are muscular, impossibly muscular guys. I've colored enough of them to know how they're drawn. I mean, they're drawn really big guys. But you look at the movies, that's not how the characters are portrayed.
No.
And it's something where, like, did that make them any less of a successful character because of it? Not at all. It's about embodying the character and using the charisma of the actor and embodying the character itself and portraying them on the screen that makes it a good character. That said, I mean, you wouldn't want Captain America to be some guy that, was 300 pounds, been eating pizza on the couch his whole life. He's got to be a physical guy, and they did a pretty good job with that. He's, Chris Evans, yeah, he's a pretty in shape, good looking guy, right? So it's like, assuming he's a good looking guy, but it's something where, like, I don't think mass necessarily conveys what the character should be. But I agree with you. I don't think they should have somebody who's just, like you said, go to the gym like 5 times. It should be. Master Universe characters are known to be physical specimens.
Because most of them, at least, most of the heroic characters, their arms are on display all the time. Their visual look, like Fisto, Clamp Champ, Man Arms, like the Stratus, their arms, their legs, it's all there. It's like it's like, at least with Captain America, you see Chris Evans, working out, he's in great shape, but the outfit's on, you don't see the muscle on there, so you just kind of have to buy into it with that.
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't want to see any of these guys wearing bodysuits or anything like that. That's why I feel like it's important that the physical look, if you're gonna play it, you're gonna have to willing to blow your arms up. You're gonna have to make your legs bigger. You're gonna, not that it's got to be in every scene, but at some point, a character like Fisto, he has to look like not just a big, got the big fist, but he needs to look like,
well, that brings up an interesting point, and I'm not saying this because I know anything, because I don't. But to be a character on the big screen that come on, these guys aren't going to be running around in furry shorts. As much as we love them as action figures, there's not going to be a whole cast of characters in furry shorts. It's not going to happen. So, to what extent would that costume deviate from the original? And so you may end up not seeing a bunch of bare naked leg guys.
Well, in the live action movie is a prime example of that, because He-Man's really the only one bearing, and that was great. That was a fine transition. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I just don't want them to feel like we can throw a bunch of guys in costumes and get away with it and just say, "Oh, this. Oh, that's Buzz Off." We just put some little antennas on his head and went cheap with it, something like that.
I was gonna say too. At the end of the day, as Val had stressed before, like they're in it to make money. So as much as you guys probably aren't gonna like it, they got to think about that general movie-going audience and their cash, because that's where most of that flow is coming from now with like the Marvel films. You got to hook all these guys in, everybody, because they want to make as much money as they can. And if that ends up kind of alienating some aspects of it, that's probably going to happen. I don't see it happening other way, because they want to be able to draw everybody in. Even if it's like the most minimal, hey, you remember He-Man, like way back when? People are like, oh yeah, back in the 80s, because to them, they're like, it didn't come out again.
But because of that mentality of that general audience, that's why I feel like, well, if they don't have any preconceived notions of what constitutes as a quality He-Man film, why not take the property with a serious approach? Keep the villains, hardcore evil. Keep the heroes, epic, and give you goosebumps when you see them on screen. Because if your general audience they don't remember Buzz Off. They just remember, oh, I remember I had that toy, and if that's what you're playing around with. I feel like, well, then you could really go all out and make it epic. It's like with Star Wars, like they had no intentions of other than keep George Lucas under control from getting crazy with his ideas, but I kind of feel like you really shouldn't have to dumb it down if most people don't remember too much, at least of the specifics.
That's true.
Yeah. I kind of feel like you're given a clean slate, so why not go with the serious approach? And
I mean, you all make a lot of good points, and it's something where I would not want to be involved in the film for that kind of reason. I mean, it's got to be tough. For me, I almost feel not so much that the physical prowess or the size of characters matters. I think it's more about the name usage. Like, if you're going to have people on there called Fisto and Buzz Off and whatnot, if they're going to accept that, because I never cared for the real names in classics. I know what they were going for.
Me neither.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, they were trying to. I think the intention there was to give it that ambiance, so they could be called that in a movie, and their character names be more like what they were nicknamed or whatnot. And I kind of get that. I understand it. I don't like that personally. I think they should he's just Buzz Off. He's just Fisto. That's their name. But to have that name, I think for some people in the audience might be a bit silly, but I think it's like you said, just embrace it for what it is. Go for it. If you take it serious and you do it, then the audience is going to believe it too. So, I mean, I personally hope that that's the approach you're going to do. And in terms of the physicality and the visuals, we'll see. I mean, I really do hope it's going to pay a lot of homage to what we knew growing up. And I hope it doesn't deviate too much, because I personally felt the 87 movie deviated too much. I think it's really cool for a sci-fi movie and what it is. But for me as a kid, it was not the He-Man that I knew, and I didn't like it. I've grown a fondness for it as I've gone older, but at the time I did not like it at all. So I'm hoping it nods more to it, but that remains to be seen, right? I mean, like I said, you all make very valid points, and we'll find out.
I just because we clearly steered away from PowerCon here. We were doing everything except advertise the hell out of PowerCon here. But it just made me think, because Sony had Venom, and we're going to do Venom without Spider-Man, and instead of making it what we always knew Venom to be, they turned it into just a big comedy, and I that's what worries me, is that this popularity of making superhero films more comedic as opposed to epic stories that kids get excited about and adults walk out and, oh man, I couldn't believe this and that, and it's more about laughs and things, and that's what kind of has me worried, that it's best to go with what everybody else is doing, as opposed to, why not offer something new, even though it's something we're very familiar with, especially with He-Man being gone for so long.
Sure. I guess because it runs that potential of not making that kind of money with what is working now, and I guess it may be in their minds that's the sole focus, is making that money over. I don't know.
It has to start with a gamble, because at least with Iron Man, we hadn't seen Iron Man, because Iron Man was a C-list character at the time. I think Val can attest to that, working at Marvel at the time. But making Iron Man a bit of a smart ass as opposed to that's a gamble. People could have like said, this is stupid. Like, what the hell's Robert Downey doing with this character? But it was a gamble and it paid off. And I think it has snowballed into everybody's a comedian now in Marvel. But it was something that, it worked. It was,
it's a weird balance. You have to take characters that the common audience aren't familiar with, and you got to like make them sort of spark in their brain. You got to appeal to the kids, but you also kind of have to appeal to your hardcore fan base, and that's just a tough thing to balance. And you got like when you were talking about the She-Ra cartoon, I hate to kind of like go back to this again, but like Joe and I watched the whole thing. We both agreed that we didn't care much for it, and I know figure wise, there's only been a She-Ra and a Catra, like a 2-pack from Super 7. So when you say it's successful, I'm taking that they're just solely basing it off of the numbers of how many hits and plays it got from Netflix.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I guess my question would
there's more to it but keep going.
There is?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking like if they were to say that, all right, this has reached a point of success to where maybe we can take these toys and maybe mass market them out. And what would be the case if they did that, but they didn't sell? Because we talked before about how it seems almost like kids don't really care about toys anymore. So I guess I'm kind of asking, like, what is the mindset between that success, the movie coming out, and this idea of we want to bring He-Man back? Is there any sort of reservation if, they're in the business to make toys and toys are for kids, but if it seems, because I go down toy aisles all the time, the new Turtles line is just no one's buying them. And things are just sitting there. Whereas like the adult collectors, even though we are a niche group, we are like that main hub of, as I've said, sort of keeping it alive. But I really don't know where the rest of my thought was going. Like I think of Transformers. I don't see a lot of those toys selling. And yes, it opened up the G1 stuff. And it seems like that stuff is what sells out on online retail websites all the time. So I guess I'm just asking, like, what do you think about all of that? Like success to what if it's not as successful as they're kind of thinking that it is right now? And I know you said there's more to that, so I'll let you.
Well, I mean, you're asking like the $65,000 question. I mean, it really, you hit upon a very valid point, which is, and that's, I'll use comics as an example. These movies from Marvel have been, there was something weird in the background. Sorry about that. I don't know what that was.
It's all those guys coming in to tell you to shut up about stuff. Don't give out any more secrets, Val.
Ghost figure walking past. Those movies have made hundreds of millions of dollars. But I work in the comic industry. It hasn't helped comic sales much of all.
And I hate that. Yeah. I hate that so much.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where, like, even though those movies do really good, comics still operate inside the budget that comics have to offer for sales. So myself as a creator and all creators, we get paid based on comic book sales. Not so good. Pay as a result, not so good. But that's just the nature of it. You know, people love the movies, but they don't go buy the comics. So, like you said, same thing there. The She-Ra numbers, from my understanding, what I've been told, are really good at Netflix. And that's good for Netflix. Netflix has their own numbers and, you know, histographic systems and however they do it in terms of like, okay, you know, like this occupies X amount of our subscription dollar. We know it's a viable commodity and we're going to renew it because it's worth our time to do it, kind of thing. And if they keep renewing She-Ra, that means that people keep watching it, and that's good. So that's great there. But does that mean that toys will sell? Because, like you said, we live in an era where a lot of younger people just get on smart devices. From the time that kids these days are 2 years old or even younger, they're on smart devices and are glued to them. And a lot of companies still can sell in that toddler demographic with toys from like the 0 up to like 4. And then there's some beyond that, I think, for like girls predominantly from like 4 to 8 or 4 to 10. But boys is a tough market. A lot of that has fallen off because boys definitely shift not only to smart devices, but to video games. And in my opinion, a really good He-Man video game based off of a successful movie franchise or TV show would be the way to go. But in terms of like, will the toys do well? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe not so good. I don't know. But I do know that She-Ra toys are coming. In fact, I don't know why they weren't shown at Toy Fair. They shifted gears for some reason. They're going to be here sometime soon, from my understanding. So that one's a little confusing to me. But it also could be maybe Mattel was being conservative about it, you know, because they're not sure. I mean, it's a different way of doing things in terms of like knowing your audience and knowing what sells versus we put a TV show on a you know, major network or a cable TV, and we kind of expect to reach X amount of people, and so we know that we can produce X amount of units and put them in the store and hope that they're going to come in and buy them. And now it's kind of like, okay, we've got it at this place, it's streaming. How many people are watching this? Enough to make toys? Yeah, maybe. Let us know. So I think it's a little more like that. Like they can't go into that with that same confidence rating about what they're going to produce with product. Now that's just my speculation, you know, based on you know, what I see. But I do know that they're working on She-Ra toys. I know they've been working on them for a while, and I think everybody knew that because they were all expecting to see them at Toy Fair. So I don't think I'm giving away secrets there, but they're coming.
Well, like you said, I guess we'll have to see how they'll sell. I mean, definitely, it's because us as being the rabid fans who buy up anything that has the label of Masters of the Universe and She-Ra at times for some things. Again, I know that we probably will still be collecting this stuff another 20, 30 years. I think it's our link. I mean, honestly, because again, we know people in our 60s and probably even older that collect these things, especially when it comes to Star Wars. But I think it just reminds us of a simpler time, because you know, there was a day when we were growing up, if you were ever known to be collecting action figures, you're a dork, a nerd, people laughed at you. But, you know, but it's like, it's kind of cool and okay now. People are showing unboxing lives on places all through Facebook and other social media, but people are proud of it and not embarrassed no more. And that goes for men and women, not just guys, but everybody's collecting this stuff. And I think definitely we could still stick around, but it's hard to get the new generation. I mean, we see it with people of our age who now have kids or nieces and nephews. They'll get them into collecting He-Man, She-Ra, or any other type of toy line, and then they'll start getting excited about it. It doesn't work all the time. You know, it's not like, you know, okay, just because it's not we're forcing it on our relatives, but trying to let them experience it and seeing when they get excited about it. I think that's the best thing, because it's kind of hard. It's, as we stated before, when people are turning to devices and video games and not touching the toys, it's like, then who will be collecting this stuff from years to come? I mean, it is basically us, and it's scary to think, God, would just toys and collecting and kind of this passion for things die with us, when it seems like sometimes kids nowadays kind of just, it's almost the flavor of the month. Oh, I like this cartoon. Oh, but now I'm done with it. I'll go to this one and this one.
Yeah.
You know, at least it's a hard thing to gauge.
It's an ADD world that we live in. You know, the things they don't stick around as long as like when we were younger. It's very quick to move on to the next thing, and then they have to recapture the audience again and again and again. But we're not really wired like that, right? I mean, we don't really think like the younger people do, because they're used to that, and I can't even begin to imagine to think like that per se. I mean, we're having to adapt to it as we get older, but they're hardwired to it because that's what they grew up with. And so I don't know how that works. I don't know the studies on that or the science on it. It's weird stuff for me to think like that. We've got how long do you guys record for?
Oh, we'll stay up till 2 o'clock, however long. No, we wing it. We do.
Cool.
Yeah, so we still have plenty, because we're definitely, like you said, we can even transition back to what Tyler was saying earlier. We can get back to PowerCon, because you definitely got to let us know about all the guests, what's going on, and maybe certain things for certain days. And then we can still talk about some other things as well, especially with Super 7 and the ending of their pre-orders on what they got coming up as well. But no, you can go ahead. You can shoot back into some more PowerCon stuff. Let people know about, the guests and what we got going on.
Oh, with the PowerCon stuff, I mean, there's not a lot. We're kind of still early. If a lot of people are familiar with PowerCon, we announce guests as we go along, and as we get closer to the show. Programming isn't revealed until we get much closer to the show, about a month away from the show. We've already announced that Freddie Williams, who's worked on the different crossovers with He-Man versus Thundercats and He-Man versus Injustice, is going to be at the show. We just announced that Jack Olesker, who was the lead story editor on the new Adventures cartoon, is going to be there. We have plenty more guests to come. This year for 2019, really the only big anniversary is New Adventures of He-Man. And the problem with New Adventures of He-Man is there isn't a glut of people that we can invite. There's only a finite number of people that we can get. And so outside of that, the other main attraction is the new She-Ra. So you kind of have these two interesting forces that are working in tandem. And then we have it kind of like spattered around with different things, like example, like Freddie, who's the comic book artist. So we'll have like some random things. I believe I could kind of announce early. I believe Mark Taylor will be back again.
Awesome.
Him and Rebecca. I believe they're going to have something new to offer for this year as well. So they're a guest, for example, that would kind of touch base on the vintage stuff for people who are interested in that. I will say for people watching the show, if you're coming to PowerCon, if you don't care for the new She-Ra, please be mindful of the people that do like it. You know, the last thing we want to get into is like He-Man and She-Ra has always been a really family environment. Like even when we have differences, we're all kind of this weird online family where we all kind of get along. And PowerCon's the same way. I would hate for anybody to come to PowerCon and give grief to another fan because of something you don't like. You know, it's like if you don't care for the She-Ra, that's fine, but just go about your way and do whatever. Don't come to a panel and show your rear end to the world about it. You know, it's just don't go to that panel. You know, I'm not hoping that doesn't happen, but it's like people have been so passionate about what they feel that I just would hate for somebody to come and ruin the fun at a show for somebody else, because you wouldn't want somebody to do that to you. So
now, is that something that I mean, obviously you're putting this in motion, but I hope is that something that is kind of keep you a little on edge concerning bringing the new element to PowerCon, and like, will you be able to, conduct the show and not have to worry about, people being vulgar during something like that?
The biggest concern I have about PowerCon is the same concern that every event organizer or director has, which is somebody coming to the show with a weapon. That's my biggest concern. Everything else is inconsequential. And we talked about this before. I don't know if it was on your show. We talked about it before. I mean, we have people in place that keep an eye out for that. We have people walking around on undercover. We have people watching. We're keeping an eye out for that sort of thing. I don't think our fan base would ever do something that ridiculous and disrespectful and hateful to one another. But it's something that in this day and age where there's some people that have problems that they're dealing with, may do something drastic, and it has happened in the past. That aside, when it comes to fans letting their passion dictate how they feel, I'm not too worried about it, because we've had fans, and I hate to bring Scott into the mix, but there's been fans that have said some really horrible things about Scott. Nobody came to PowerCon and attacked Scott. I mean, there was a couple of people that said some things during panels where they sounded a little bratty about it, but no one's like screamed obscenities at him and gone at him with a hatchet or anything crazy like that. It's in person, I think people are way different than they are online. But there's been such a gut reaction to the new cartoon. I think it will have dissipated way more by the time PowerCon comes around, but I'm still a little concerned about it. And I have to be concerned about it. I have to think about it, because I want everybody to have a good time. Myself and everybody that works on the show, we bust our rear end so everybody can have a good time. It matters. That's why we do the show. People are like, oh no, you do the show for money. Well, we do the show partly because we hope to make money. We haven't done it yet, but you do a good show because you're fans of it and you have other people have a good time, and then hopefully over long term you make money. But until that happens, the goal of the show is to have a good show that people enjoy. And if you have anybody who comes in and makes it a miserable experience for others because they're having a bad time or they don't like something, that's not fair. That's disrespectful to other people. It's not considerate, and it's not what our fan base is about. And I hope no one does that. If you have a criticism or complaint, vocalize it in a constructive manner. But if you think you may rain on someone's parade and you're at a show having a good time, go have a good time and don't worry about the things that bother you. You know, life's too short for that. But that aside, I'm not terribly concerned about it. Another thing I'm worried about is it's a new demographic. And we're kind of an old school group, right? We're late 30s, early 40s for the most part, with a spreading age base from there. A lot of the people of She-Ra are like early 20s, give or take from there. And I want them to feel welcome. I want them to feel like they're part of our family. I want them to recognize the older stuff and learn about it and embrace it. And I want the older fans to kind of foster them in and be like, hey there, you know, little Joey, like this is, you know,
my corn pipe here. And
yeah, exactly. You know, like make them feel welcome. Like, you know, it's like, I'm glad you enjoy this She-Ra thing. Not my cup of tea, but I'm glad you like it. And I'm go watch it and have a good time. You know, it's like that kind of thing. It's like embrace one another and have a good time and foster each of other's interest, even if you may not particularly be interested in that thing. You know, it's like, let them do their thing, have their fun. You go do your thing, have fun. And that's what I hope.
It's true. It's like you said, constructive criticism is always great. Of course, doing anything negative and vile, that's not what you want. But that's, I think, what would concern me, and I'd hope they could at least understand, is like you said, the new generation, sometimes it seems like they can get really set off to where even constructive criticism like really gets them mad. Now, I guess they should understand that this isn't something new. We did it when that 87 movie came out back in the day. There were people that freaked out, said, oh my God, this is horrible. I can't stand it. Some people freaked like that. They did it for the New Adventures cartoon. So it's not like that's a new thing for He-Man fans. And actually, it's not a new thing for any fandom. I mean, you could say that for Transformers, Ninja Turtles, a lot of different versions. Everybody can say when there's something they don't like, but I would just hope that, like you said, if there's a new demographic that comes in and they hear somebody old school or even somebody around their age saying, I really didn't like the new She-Ra, that they would know that's constructive, that again, it's just something we're passionate about. And sometimes when there's, you know, and I would hope they could, you know, like at least if anything, you could prepare them, or they should be prepared to know that they might have people saying, hey, this new show, I'm not really into it. I don't like the designs, or I don't like the voice acting. But yes, if they're going to start getting vile with it and nasty, yeah, that's always a problem in any kind of fandom, because you just got to keep it constructive. So I'd hope they can understand that, like you said, if it comes, it should be expected that there's, you know, it's going to happen. There's going to be somebody that says, I just don't like it. But I hope they don't take such offense to understand, you know, it's just coming with honest critiques, and we can all learn from things back and forth between all groups.
I think you just need to pay to have Joe flown out there to attend PowerCon. He would just bring the peace to everything.
I'm trying to get Joe to come out there. I don't know about you, Nathan. Tyler, are you coming this year?
It's an issue of it being scheduled around when the students are coming back to Virginia Tech.
I thought you were coming this year.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a little earlier in the summer. Like even if it's like early August, like okay, I could have made that. But when it's like son of a bitch, it's the exact same time again. It's when the students come back. So why don't you put my needs ahead of the needs of everybody else in the world here for a change?
I'm just gonna have to show up wearing Joe's mask and a tank top. And I'll just be both of them.
That'll work.
I think that would be good. Oh man, I guess I don't know where you guys want to wrap it up, but I guess, you know, I covered the guests that we would, you know, what I can talk about now. Program we can't really talk about. It is, again, in Anaheim, California. We're literally across the street from Disneyland. I mean, the main entrance is about a mile away.
Oh, wow.
But we're at the tail end of it, where the big wall kind of goes around everything. We're like, I look out from when I went to visit a hotel window, and I just looked out on Disneyland and looked at everything. So it's right there. You're right there at Disneyland. So I'm hoping people come out and they can make a little trip out of it and have a good time. That's part of the reason why I went to Anaheim, for not only a bigger venue, but to give somebody an extra incentive. If you're going to travel out, here's something extra for you. Whereas locals, they'll just drive in and then they'll drive back. You know, they've been to Disneyland a number of times. They don't care. You know, they might go, they might not go. So we're trying to make it a destination for people that might want to come to it. And the Hilton Anaheim is a really great hotel. I love the layout. It's got a lot of great things there. Pixel Dan and I filmed a video a couple months ago. that he has on his channel, like showcasing the hotel and what it has to offer and what the layout looks like. We hope people will come check it out. I've tried to keep prices pretty low, like usual, and hoping that will influence people as well to come out. I mean, because I know it's expensive. If you travel out, it's really expensive. And so hopefully having Disney there as an incentive will make it even better. Other than that, I mean, I wish I could announce more on guests. I mean, we're going to have new She-Ra guests there for the new cartoon. DreamWorks plays things a little closer to event dates. Like they like to have things revealed closer. I'm hoping to get some early announcements on that, but that's just how they like to do things. So like if you look at some of their guest announcements for other shows, you'll see that they kind of happen like pretty close to when the show is happening. That's just how they like to do things. And I work very closely with DreamWorks and Universal and Mattel. So, you know, I have to play ball with how they want to do that. But other than that, we do have a bunch of cool things coming. There's no other surprises in terms of exclusives. I will say about the exclusives, just so people have a little bit of background on them. Those were the She-Ra not, but She-Ra. Well, I'll come back to She-Ra in a second because I love the She-Ra one. It's not really for everybody, but I want to explain a little something about She-Ra. I don't have my glasses on. I wanted to look at something really quick. I look like an old man. Look at squint. Look at that. It's okay. So, Horde Zombie He-Man, Slamurai, and the two Snake Troopers were visually designed by Brandon Sapinski. So he actually did that. He came up with the idea. He came up with the cool idea of the Ronin head, like by using the 2000X Cyclone head to kind of give the samurai aspect to Slamurai for doing him. Like the color, ops that are on it, all that was Brandon. Like he took the time out of his own schedule to do all that stuff. And then the Four Horsemen went in and sculpted him and painted him and everything like that. She-Ra was Darren Sander, like one of the Sander brothers that had been working there for Monster High and everything like that. Darren, also a massive She-Ra and He-Man fan. If anybody knows him, he's actually been in the community for a long, long, long time. And he did the 12-inch She-Ra. I got some fans that were a little upset or confused, like, why isn't this a classics version of Starburst She-Ra? Why are you doing a 12-inch She-Ra? I was kind of hoping people would put 2 and 2 together on that, but all we'll say is 2020 is the She-Ra celebration year. So, I mean,
sure, we could expect. Yeah, I see what you mean. There could be some more of that stuff coming.
Yeah, maybe you might see something like that for that year. So, okay. It's one of those things where you kind of have to forecast ahead and think about it. And the Earl Norm wrapping paper was something that I personally really wanted to do.
Cool.
And it's something where it's a one-time only item. You better load up on as many rolls as you can get because it's going to be the only time you can get it. And a big chunk of the money is going to be going to the Norm family. So from the sales. So you have an even bigger incentive to purchase these. And it's something that I know I personally am going to get a bunch of rolls. So I hope people buy this thing in mass personally. But I think that's kind of it. Like to kind of really wrap up on PowerCon. Again, the pre-sales end on this Sunday, April the 7th. Definitely, if you are not going to the show, check into the attendee for non-attendee option, where just for a small markup, an attendee can get them for you. I really encourage people to check that out. And if not, then you can get from Big Bad Toy Store or Space from April 8th. And I just looked it up until May 5th. After that, it closes. And then some people ask me, well, Val, what happens if you don't sell out of everything by May 5th? Why don't you leave the pre-order window open? I have a couple of resellers that are willing to buy the remaining stock then. And it's a situation where, like, I love to leave it open, but I need the money up front. I need to pay for stuff at the convention. I need to pay for these toys. I need to pay for all the guests that are flying out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I cannot just let things that are left sit there. I have to wrap it up. So that's it. May 5th, we're done. April 8th to May 5th, non-attendees from Big Bad Toy Store in Space. If you want to get them from now until April 7th, just for attendees, or if you're a non-attendee, talking to an attendee through our attendee to non-attendee option. There's a link there in the ticket page. About 4 guys, I think, that are reputable.
I'm looking at it right here. That's what I wanted to ask you about.
Ask me.
Yeah. So because I was like, I got to get this 3-pack because I have to have Samurai, and I looked and I saw there clearly is no option to buy any of this stuff in advance. You have to, if you're going, you can buy it there at the show. But if not, you need to contact one of these 4 people from the org, correct? And
yes, that's correct.
Okay, and just send them a message. And I mean, do you need to pay them in advance? Do you pay upon once they get it? Like, how does that? Or is it
they all have their individual terms outlined in their threads that are linked to. Like each one of those links there for their name, like you click on their name, it takes you to their thread where they're selling it. And you do have to be registered to heman.org, but you can, you can sign up pretty easy. It's not a big deal. I mean, the marketplace access requires a little bit more finesse, but you can still use the PM, I think, to their username.
Okay.
But it's something where they have all their terms outlined in the thread. And I think for most of them, it's pay for the figures in advance and then pay for shipping later. Okay. I think that's how they're handling it, but I can't speak to that for certain, but that's what they're doing. And they have, attendees can only get X number of figures for people before their slots are filled up because everyone has a quota, because we want to make sure it's fair. So, when those, I think like one guy already ran out, like Bat for Life. I think he already ran out of his slots. So it's something where these will fill up. So, if you're looking to save a few bucks, contact one of those guys, talk to them and work it out with them, and they'll sort out the details with you.
Okay. Okay, cool. And that goes for
Val,
anybody. Go ahead, Joe.
I was just going to say there was one more thing about PowerCon before, I pass it to Tyler and we try to get some fan questions for you, Val, in the chat room. But
hey, I can go as late as you want. So, keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're also going to have
oh my God, no.
Oh, no. I'm just letting you guys do your thing.
No, but we also will finally be able to, or at least people who are attending there at PowerCon will finally see the Return of Faker cartoon, correct? From James and Dushin?
Yes, that's right. James and Dushan are like, I've been kicking butt. I believe Andrew Kramer has been working with them too. And those guys have been slaving away at doing that. Dushan in particular, I know that guy is crazy. I don't know if he's in the chat room tonight, but he's relentless. That guy is.
Yeah, he was there earlier. I don't know if he's still here, but he was here earlier. Yeah,
he's a machine. He worked for me on the newspaper strip book that we did, and that guy could crank. Like he just revs like an engine. I don't know how he does it. He's like permanent caffeine in his heart or something. I don't know, but very, very disciplined guy, very faithful guy to like working on source material. And that, from my understanding, will be revealed at PowerCon. That's what James told me. As you all know, he just posted a teaser for chapter 8 or segment 8 or whatever he called it from the thing today. So that just went up today for Return of Faker. And that looks awesome.
Yeah, and it's not a major spoiler, Joe, so I don't want to hear any nonsense. Well, I can't watch it because it might spoil everything for me.
Hey, you know what's funny? That's what's funny, Tyler, is earlier today, Dushin said...
I saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was like, no. I was like, I don't want to be spoiled or nothing. And he was like, it's not really a spoiler. Then he accidentally tagged me in a message on Facebook with the video. I was like, I didn't mean to do that. I was trying to let you see a quote or something. I was like, all right, because I told him, I was like, you know what? Even though I know it's not really spoiler, it's spoiler free. I told him, I said, I want to feel like when I go into this Faker cartoon, I want to see as little as possible. So it's almost like back in the day when I turn on the TV and bam, just a new episode of Heat. Yeah, I'm just that guy. I hate trailers, but I seen that by accident. But it does look amazing, though.
I'm the same way as you, man. I don't watch trailers because I want to walk into a movie completely blown away or disappointed by whatever I say. So I get it.
I would rather watch it that way. Okay, I'm staying the hell away from that movie. Like I'm not,
yeah, but how many times have we seen a trailer? We're like, yeah, this looks really good, and then we go see the movie and we're like,
because we were tricked. We voluntarily went and saw AVP 1 and 2 and Ghost Rider, knowing it was going to suck. I learned my lessons from those. Like, no, it ain't going to be bad. If the trailers suck, it's going to be bad.
Tyler's the only reason I watched 2 trailers because he was like, Joe, just I forgot what was the deal with it, Tyler, that you would do something and I would watch it. How did that go again?
I would start watching Stranger Things, which didn't take too much coaxing. If he'd watched the trailer for it, and he did, and then Joe, he was quite happy with breaking his.
I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't want to watch it, but I enjoyed it. And then the same thing, I think he told me, he was like, well, you got to watch at least the preview for Cobra. Yeah. Oh, Halloween. Yeah, Halloween. And so that was great. And then I know Cobra Kai is going to be coming out next month, and I'm trying to avoid anything on YouTube if they're showing any previews of the next season of Cobra Kai. I didn't even watch the preview about Stranger Things coming the 4th of July. Yeah, I try to avoid it. It's hard, though. Like you said, with social media and everything popping up in your face at all times, you just stuck, you're suckered in sometimes to it.
Yeah,
I will pass right now to the. Go ahead. Because I was going to say the chat room. I wanted right now, if you guys have any questions for Val or for us, pop them in the chat room. Val, you can say what you're going to say there.
My question is, can you get off? Tell him to go away.
No, we'll see. But go ahead. I passed you, Val. I thought you were going to say something earlier.
Oh yeah, no, I was saying I avoided trailers for it in particular. And then I watched it, and I've only made it halfway through the movie because I don't know about you guys, but for me in particular, some of that stuff hit a little too close to home, and I couldn't watch it anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I was like,
really?
I got some bad memories from some of the scenes in that, and I just couldn't watch it anymore.
Holy hell! Wow. From watching based from the original film?
No. Just the stories of some of those kids. It hit a little too close to home for some of the stuff that I grew up with, and I couldn't watch it anymore.
You didn't have a guy going through the neighborhood that was some vagrant or whatever, and maybe with drugs. Because I enjoyed it. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I was one that didn't say I liked the original It over this one. They both have their charm. They both have something unique to it, and they did a great job. So I love both of those suckers.
Yeah.
But okay, well, let's see. I'm trying to check the chat room because I got a quote from Zentron. I know what that is. He says, movie quote is Knight jumps queen, bishop jumps queen, pawn jumps queen, gang bang. That's history of the world. So I do know that, Zentron. Thanks for that movie quote.
Is he just doing Nathan, that? Is he stealing my gimmick to just talk to you? Because all he does is quote obscure Mel Brooks movies or ones that I haven't seen. And it's like this every damn week.
Every week, damn it. I'm trying to see if, let's see. I just want to see if there was anything earlier because I'm still waiting for anything now. But Nathan, did you see any questions earlier from the fans?
There was one that was earlier, and I was trying to scroll through and find it probably about 15 minutes ago.
Because we usually have that 30-second delay. Okay, well, quickly, let's see. Oh no, Zentron was just asking me if I ship internationally. Yes, I do. I ship all over through the world. But I know there were some questions.
Well, Zen Brown did ask earlier, Val, who would you cast to play He-Man?
Who would I cast?
Yeah.
I'm not really good with casting calls. I'm also really not up to speed with the current actor and actress roster that's out there. I don't know names very well, so I would be the worst person to cast anybody because I would be like, oh yeah, that person that was 20 who's 50 now, that's who you should have as He-Man. I would be the worst person to ask.
All right. Oh, and Zen Brown did have another question. He said, will there be another live audio play at PowerCon?
I don't think so. Not this year anyway. I know Gunnar is not coming this year, so I know that without Gunnar there won't be an audio play. Maybe next year for 2020, but we'll see. I mean, that was one of the ones that when we did it, I was really on the fence about it. I was kind of like, I don't know about this. So we did it, and it ended up being really popular. So I'm glad that we did it. So I'd like to do it again if he wants to do it.
Okay.
Now, will Axel be coming back to pretend like he can't talk to people because of his accent or anything like that?
Is what because of his accent?
Axel, will he be coming to PowerCon again? And
oh yeah, it's another early guest spoiler. Axel will be there.
Okay, cool. So he'll show up and talk to all these other people. I can't get him on this damn podcast.
And I've heard Axel speak in the past. He's fine.
I have too.
Yeah.
And I told him the same thing. I told him he's absolutely fine. He should just go on the show. His English is fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
I think some people
we're talking. I'm sending him a message right now.
He's like, I'm gonna do it. No, but I've noticed that some people that were paranoid about coming on the show because they thought maybe their English wasn't great. It seems like every single person that's ever been on here and I've heard anywhere else speaks fine. So especially once you get in the flow, you feel comfortable about it. Maybe some people just aren't comfortable or think it's just camera shy. I mean, well, I'm camera shy, but
I was gonna say, Joe, you're one to talk there.
And yeah, exactly. You ain't gonna see this ugly mug. But Fedmont said, We also need those audio plays translated for the fans that don't speak German. He says maybe even do a comic book like one of the fans did, which was Karsten Clinch. He did an amazing fan comic of one of the German audio plays. Is that something that ever comes up or around? Maybe do you see much of, Val? It'd be cool to see, but has there been interest of seeing those audio plays translated, whether into a comics or people just wanting to hear them in English?
Well, based on that, I think you have a follow-up question to that about comics as well, if I'm not mistaken. But
oh yeah, oh yeah, go ahead. But then I'll get to that. Yeah,
I think it's a situation where, like, if that had been done 15 years ago, there might have been some interest in it. But to do comics about 30-year-old audio plays probably aren't going to have a lot of pull. It's a tough sell. If you had like a really awesome writer and a really amazing artist, and Dark Horse or DC, whoever was doing it, did it as a mini series, and because most people wouldn't even know what it is, probably could do something really cool and it'd be neat. But I think a lot of people, like only a finite number of hardcore fans like us, really even know about the German audio plays. And it's something where, like, if they did it for mass market, mentioning an audio play wouldn't even matter. It'd be like a story. So
yeah, like I'd say, if anything, you're right. Just put it right into a actual comic book or a big volume, because like you said, if it's going to be translated, at least we can see something that looks amazing and read it as well. Because as we discovered, think about the newspaper comic strip book. Almost everybody in the entire He-Man community never even knew half of that stuff existed. But when it was put into that book, yeah, people were loving it because what's old is new if you've never seen it before. So I think that could. Yeah, I think that worked pretty well in getting into the comics.
That's a possibility of doing it. I don't know what the audience would be, but it's a possibility. There's a bit of a caveat there, which is when you do a book that it's a weird thing. It's when you do a book that's like really big and it has like a $50 or $60 price point on it, you can get away with doing a smaller number of units as opposed to like a comic book, because a comic book has very, very, very slim margins on it. And doing something like that, that's like, a typical comic book is, 32 page self cover is what they do these days. So you end up like 20 pages of story plus ads plus the cover, the IFC, front cover, IFC, IBC. So it's something where, like, it's a $3.99 price tag, which ends up being $1.60 wholesale. And the margins on it are very, very slim. So if you're producing only like 1,000 or like 2,000 copies, you're probably paying $1 a piece to print them, which leaves you 60 cents profit on an issue. Multiply that times 2,000 issues, that's $1,200 profit. Pay that on licensing royalty plus all this stuff. There's no money there whatsoever. So that's where the kind of that margin is between like a floppy comic versus a really, really big book, where you can get away with it because it's kind of like shoving a bunch of comics all together in one place, and your risk factor, you get a bigger margin there to get away with it. So doing them as individual comics as audio play, risque. Doing them as a book, kind of like the newspaper strip book, a little more practical. But it depends on if the audience is there for it.
Oh, I think they would actually. If there was a great, like you said, a big book, a volume with, like, let's say, hypothetically, 20, 30 of those put into there now drawn, that's a lot of new stories for us to read. We get pretty hungry for that stuff. And I think definitely would sell. It looks like all those Dark Horse books have sold, at least from what I've seen, looks like they've sold great. I would hope that's right and hope it's true. But I think oh, go ahead.
For the most part,
Okay,
Yeah,
I got okay.
The best seller, without a doubt, was the mini comic collection. That has seen multiple reprintings already.
Wow.
So, and there will be another Dark Horse book coming.
I was getting ready to ask you that very thing.
Dun,
Like,
dun, dun.
any time of whatever this is will be revealed. Is it be San Diego at PowerCon or?
This book should be at least revealed by San Diego Comic-Con. If not, it will definitely be revealed at PowerCon.
Okay. Sounds intriguing. Hopefully, eventually we'll get some golden books. Maybe that is the one. I know you couldn't speak of it, but it'd be great.
True life story of Joe Amato.
Oh man, that's gonna be a hot seller. That's a hot seller.
Is it gonna be? I can already picture the cover. It's just him standing there by a dumpster with McDonald's coupons in his hand.
McDonald's coupons.
The rise and fall of a podcasting juggernaut.
Oh Christ! Yeah, that could definitely. I could see it, but I guess the comic question was: it was leading to the unreleased comic that would have been in a 2-pack exclusive if for Spin Blade and the Smash Blade, He-Man and Skeletor variants back in the day for the 2000X line. Now I know we got that in the mini comic collection book, but again, if there was fan demand and in some way, any way that could be released, is that something possible that they could give a physical copy of just that comic for those who thought I'd love to add that to the rest of my comic collection from back then in the 2000X feel and that kind of line and run?
Before I answer that question, how long did it take you to find that black and red tartan scarf to match your mask?
You know what's weird? This is the bizarre thing. I didn't even plan for this for the mask. I guess you're the first person to ask that. That's what I wipe my mouth with after I'm eating. But no, I thought, I don't know, let me just do something different with this hood. So I just grabbed the scarf, threw it on, put on the mask. And I guess I've never thought about it until you just said, but yeah, I guess it. Yeah.
Really? I was like, man, he must have searched all over to find that perfect color combination. Like, this will match my Modulite mask. Perfect. Like,
no,
I'm blown away that wasn't intentional, man, because I thought that's what you did the entire time.
No, that's it's just a big ass coincidence, I guess. So yeah, well, you're the first person that said it. Never thought about it till now. Now I'm gonna start thinking this subconscious.
Kudos on you, sir. That's an artist instinct right there, man. Good for you. Yeah.
But go ahead.
For that comic, I'm with you too about because you guys had Kevin Sharp on, and it was really cool to hear Kevin talk about that because I mean that was so long ago that he worked on that, and it was something where I don't know what happened. It was supposed to be another Target exclusive 2-pack, and it got yanked. Maybe because they already had a giant surplus of Spin Blade.
Okay.
God almighty.
See, you just answered my question. That was my next thing I was going to ask was that comic conceptualized before the Spin and Smash Blade variants were released, or was it conceptual? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We worked on it.
It would have explained it because many people. Go ahead.
No. I don't mean to cut you off. I know we worked on it before the figures were released in stores. I don't know what shifted there. Like I have no idea. I don't know what happened. I never got an explanation on that.
Oh man, I wish we would have known. I mean, I guess in another perfect world, it would have been great if possibly that was the way you could have acquired the Spin and Smash Blade variants, was to buy it in a 2-pack with that comic because. Heck, you know how like some of those other 2-packs, like the Wolf and the Cobra armor, some people didn't flip over, but they say it's still a cool looking 2-pack. But I think that might have helped it better with not having as much clutter of the single carded figures. Because yes, when you go into the stores, God, they were loaded with those things because they was like, oh, it's a.
It would not have helped much because I can't talk numbers on it. I know the numbers, but. They ordered Smash Blade, He-Man, and Spin Blade Skeletor in a large quantity across mass retailers. It was a pretty large quantity, as we all know. The Target exclusives were only 5,000 of them. So, 5,000 the first 2-pack that had that first comic in it. Then there would have been 5,000 more. So it wouldn't have helped much if you just took those out of the mix and put them into the 2-pack. It wouldn't have made much of a difference. but as far as like producing the comic, I'm with you. Like, I love to have that tangible collectible because it's neat to have it in the mini comic collection, but it's in a giant book and it's downsized, so you don't get it in its true format like it was supposed to be. But something like that would really fall on whoever the current comic licensee is, and right now it's DC Comics. I know Dark Horse works with DC quite a bit in terms of subletting stuff, which is like why they're doing the book license, because that was something with their partnership with DC where they ended up doing that. But with comics, I think DC has a pretty firm grasp on that for a while. But in terms of doing that and releasing it, it's something that would really, like with anything in life that spoils all the fun, it comes down to finances. You know, doing the money. I mean, it's a little bit easier because it's already done and paid for, right? You don't have to pay for anything. But I think it might be something that potentially at some point.
PowerCon exclusive 2020. PowerCon exclusive 2020. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you were kind of jumping the gun on me there. Thank you for spoiling my announcement, sir.
I was actually thinking it before you said it. I swear to God, that was my next lead up. I was like, do you think this could be a
2020 not going to happen, but or maybe, but it's something where like that might be something you would see potentially as a PowerCon exclusive. You know, where you can buy that item really limited and get the original comic. But it's all hypothetical. You know, you never really know for certain.
We love that might
be the year I actually get Kevin to come out to the show. So,
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, Kevin already said in the chat, he was like, "Tyler, if you go, I'll go with you."
Man, Preston's really honest. Like, I gotta like, you know, give Coke like the finger and
if you guys go, I'll go with you.
Well, I know. We you know, we'd probably have to kill Joe and drag his body like Weekend at Bernie's because there's no way in hell Joe is leaving
waving like this.
Yeah, we could just kind of have him hanging out on the couch in the lobby of the hotel, and everyone's like, "Joe, look, I give you $300 for the costume." We turned his head away and everything, and you know, the
hold my arm up like this.
Yeah. Joe's like refusing Val's prices for like, look, can you donate one of your customs? And Joe's like constantly turning his head like, oh man, it'd be great. I wonder how long we could get away with that for the entire weekend or something like that. And Joe's body
yeah, there you go.
Over at Disney World somehow, me and Nathan like Andrew McCarthy and
just riding with Joe on Splash Mountain and everything.
Yeah, and he's starting to stink. You know.
Oh Jesus! Weekend at Joey's. Oh my God! Well, before I pass it to Tyler, Nathan, if any closing
Kevin,
things.
If me and Nathan did go, yeah, you'd have to go with us for sure. Yeah, because I want to say, did you do the coloring on that stunning print that of the Smash Blade Spin Blade print for PowerCon?
I did color that.
God, that was I absolutely. I've shared that a few times because I think there were some people on social media who had never seen it before. God, it was awesome.
I would go back and do some things differently now. I feel it's a little too saturated. There's little focal points that are like lacking in it, but it was fun to work on Kevin's art again. I mean, I think the time before I did for that was for Daniel Benedict's Fall of Grayskull comic, where I colored the one where it was like Mosquito versus Castle Grayskull Man. So I colored that one too, and I felt that was a better piece. Like I felt I did a better job on that one than I did the Smash Blade He-Man one that Kevin did.
How do you guys decide what goes into like for that one right there? How did you decide like, okay, we want a couple of prints? How do you decide we want these characters for a print? Like, who do you decide that, or is it someone that you reach out to the artist and they said, I want to do these guys or something like that?
I haven't done the prints. I didn't do them. Did I do them in 2017? I thought 2016 was the last year I did them.
Yeah. I don't think they're. Oh no. I guess I'm thinking of like Axel having prints available and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, those are his. He does that.
Yeah.
For the ones we did for PowerCon, I really just asked the artists what they wanted to do. Like if there was something that would be a conflict with another print that had already been committed, I would say, well, no, we can't do that. But I just let them. I wanted them to draw something that was fun for them because they were helping out with the show. So the Smash Blade He-Man Spin Blade Skeletor, that would be Kevin's doing, probably because I mean I can only speculate, but part of me feels like he did that because he didn't do the cover for the comic that would have been with the 2-pack. So that was his way to do the cover for it. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's like I get like I'm the same way. Like that sense of, completing a task and going the full distance. I mean, if you did it, I would completely understand.
Well, Kevin, if you're still here, let us know if that was the reason behind it, or you just thought it'd be crazy to just smash blade, spin blade.
Kevin did say great job on colors on both. So he's still here. So we'll see if he might pop up with a little more. And before I mention one thing about the figures real quick, you were talking about, we need more video games. That's what we need is more video games for Masters of the Universe. And this was from Eric Amen. I wanted to thank you for this. And this this is actually a Kung Fu hack where they changed it characters. It's actually awesome to play. You're He-Man, and what cracked me up is whoever programmed it, those little snakes that would fall, they were turned into like little dinosaurs, and then Cometroid, he's going around. They actually put some meteorbs in. I was like, why do I like this thing so much? So, but I want to thank Aaron, because that was really kind of him to do that. It was unexpected. And also, for anybody that was wanting to do the pre-orders again on those William Stout figures on the Super 7 website, it's been extended till tomorrow at 12 a.m. or 12 midnight, I think, Pacific time.
Yep.
So the window is still open. It was going to be today it ended, but it's been extended till tomorrow. And that also includes the Conan figure. For any of you guys who haven't did it yet and you're waiting for the last minute, you got till tomorrow at midnight Pacific time. But, Nathan, did you have any closing things you wanted to say to Val before we wrap it up then?
Oh, no, I just want to say I always appreciate when you guys manage to get all of these guests on this show. It's always nice. And thank you, Val, for popping in and kind of giving your insights on things. It's definitely interesting to...
I'm easy. You can buy me off with a Pop-Tart and a High C juice pack.
Okay, so you and Joe have a lot in common then, yeah. His thing is
much to please us.
His thing is
like a box of Toastums and some knockoff High C's. Joe, are you familiar?
Yeah, but then he would be like, "These are knockoffs." I said Pop-Tart and High C.
These were $1 though.
I love them. Hey, I'm with you, Tyler. You ask about Toastums? Yeah, that's what I get. I usually can't afford I can't afford Pop-Tarts. Well, I can't afford the Pop-Tarts, so I get from...
All right, I know some of you guys out there have Joe's address and mail him things. Will you please mail him Pop-Tarts?
Well, I shit you not. Before we started this show, I had a Toastum. I had the brown sugar Toastum before I came up here. Get them at Dollar Tree. It's cheap. You get a lot of good stuff at Dollar Tree. I tell you, I promote the heck out of Dollar Tree.
Why don't you just make a Dollar Tree mask?
Yeah, would there be some maybe cover sponsor Dollar Tree? Is like who has Dollar Tree as a sponsor? But heck, they deliver. Yeah, I'll tell you, Val, if you want to get something else cheap that's good at Dollar Tree, they got this barbecue rib sandwich.
Val has a habit of shopping at Dollar Tree.
Hey, I will tell you what's awesome at the dollar store. You want to clean something up right, get you a bottle of Awesome. All right.
No, you did not just say that. I just had used Awesome. I had that bottle down there too. I got paint that was stuck onto the ceramic part of my sink, and I squirted down. That Awesome just takes it off like nothing.
Hey, man, they say put awesome, a little. Man.
Yeah. It is. But yeah, if you guys have never heard of Awesome, get it. They say put water to dilute it, but I like just using the whole concentrate of Awesome. It'll clean blood off of carpets and everything. It does. It
blood, yeah, because Joe has a habit of cleaning blood off carpets.
Wait, what?
No, but it does.
Val needs to wear like some kind of Bill Cosby sweater and Joe with an English accent saying, "You can clean up blood right off the carpet here, mate." And Val said, "Oh, wow, this is amazing." And,
it really does. It does work.
You can put on Performance at PowerCon is trying to sell cans of Awesome-O and for Toastums or something like that.
Oh my God, it worked. But yes, and also Val, at the Dollar Tree, get that. They have a barbecue rib sandwich. It's only $1, but it's good.
Really? There's a barbecue rib sandwich? Is it like the
barbecue rib? It's well, that's the thing. It actually tastes better, and it's only $1. So I loaded up. I got a lot of.
Is it like magic meat or mystery meat or something like that?
I can screw it. Tyler's like dietary needs, like attrition is happening in his body right now. Like, oh my God,
Tyler. I know we said we weren't going to do this, but I'm just going to go ahead. There we go.
Yeah. That's the aftermath of Joe's trip to the Dollar Tree. Oh God. Why did I say $1?
Yeah, when I'll say some of these stories, and Tyler looks at me like I'm insane when I told him that, like, after I'd fried chicken, there's a lot of that chicken grease scum, and I said I just like taking my fingers onto that skillet and just ripping up the scum and eating it. It's actually quite delicious. I swear to God, it is. But
he treats it like it's a damn Italian. No pun. Yeah, an Italian delicacy or something like that. From the
Joe, I went to Olive Garden tonight for dinner. Do you want me to just Do you want me to just mail that to you? I mean, it'll get there about a week from now, but I'm sure you're still all right with it, right? Jesus, Joe. Can we just get a sponsorship by Dollar Tree already?
Oh, poor Joe.
Joe's the epic smudging bag at this point. PowerCon, Val?
It's what?
Do you guys still have that big dinner at PowerCon?
We don't do that anymore.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say Joe walk around all the tables. Let me help you clean up here and stuff. Eating the scraps off the table here, hanging out underneath the table, grabbing scraps up, and you won't have to clean up. Just turn Joe loose in there and he'll clean up.
And by the way, Val, here's another thing at Dollar Tree that I definitely recommend that you try. Joe, what are you doing?
It's laundry detergent. It's better than Calgon. I'm telling you.
Oh God! Oh, like I said, you'd have to pay me in scraps. I'll be fine with the scraps. But oh God! So well, Val, it has been a pleasure having you on. You'll have to come back. On again. Thank you, everybody in the chat room that's here. They were all be real cool. They enjoyed it as well. So until next time, have a powerful day.
That was like the most clunky end of this podcast. Like I can't even do my quote and everything.
I'm just laughing. Well, you got to hit us with a quote. Go ahead, Tyler. What's the quote?
Never rub another man's rhubarb.
Oh yeah, I know that one. That's It Takes Two with the Olsen twins and Steve Gutenberg. Nailed it.
No, that's the Burbs. Wait, is it the Burbs?
No,
I hate when I question myself.
God, Joe.
Wait, could you say it again?
Never rub another man's rhubarb.
I've heard it before. It's like Batman, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that was the Joker that said it, right?
Yeah, well, no, it was Rumsfeld saying it to Ricky Butler, in regards
could have been Batman. Yeah, damn it. Good job, Val. At least you got it.
Yeah.
It just flashed in my head all of a sudden. Oh, it was Jack Nicholson that did it.
Yes. Yeah. Val and Nathan, they get this stuff. Joe, you haven't seen anything.
Hey, you know what? That's the only time I've ever gotten it. Anytime you've ever done the movie thing, I have never gotten it any other time.
Really?
Yeah.
God. I guess I've just watched too many movies.
He got one live. It did pretty good. So, see you guys next time.